You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Thank you so much for coming out to do the podcast.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, we're very excited to chat with you guys.
Finally able to make it.
Yeah.
We had it scheduled for last week, but then we died, so it was terrible. It was so terrible. It was such a week of like fever-induced comas. There was
So
like
terrible.
a stretch
People
of
are
4
really
days
getting
where,
put in induced comas, so
Right?
not really.
No.
Not really. We're
It was
being
a
a little
nightmare.
dramatic. Yeah, we did not feel good. Everybody's.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
I've been through it. Did you? I mean, you kind of. Yeah,
Something.
you did.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys.
So thanks for being flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you guys are here. Are you excited?
I am.
So excited.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah,
excited.
I've loved listening to your podcasts.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
love doing it.
Yeah, that's obvious.
I forgot one thing.
What did
What'd
you
you
forget?
We have a game we're going to play.
Oh, did you
I'll
want
just
paper?
I'll just use regular paper. It'll be okay.
Okay.
Never mind. It's for later. It's not a
Okay.
big deal.
Okay.
What's the name of you guys' podcast?
Tru Life Balance
True Life Balance.
podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started, right?
Yeah, I think we've got 4 episodes recorded.
Yeah.
4 episodes. The whole point is to the tag is, balance is the illusion, harmony is the goal, and
Ooh.
because we don't really believe in life balance.
Yeah.
But because there is no such thing, you're
Constant
always
counterbalancing.
out of balance, getting
Swinging back and forth on
swinging
the
back and
spectrum.
forth on the spectrum. Yeah, between whatever it is you're focusing on, where your growth is needed. And lately, we've been just diving deep into spiritual growth, and we've spent a lot of time in our time together, almost 12 years in physical growth and business growth, and then relationship growth.
How old are you guys? I know that I feel like you and I are close to the same age.
I just turned 40.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I just turned 50.
You just turned 50.
Mm-hmm.
So I just turned 41. So we have this theory that we've been kicking around for the last couple of months, because we talk to people, and it seems like a lot of people that we're finding and a lot of people that we're talking to are in a very similar growth, I guess, pattern. It seems like life, for a lot of people is tending to shift and change to where they're really starting to get their shit together and deal with the stuff that, at least on our end, that we have avoided for a lifetime. So it kind of seems like you guys are on a similar path in a sense, where you're finally starting to do some real actual.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I thought I was doing the work, and I thought I had my shit together. And then it's like this thing that, like, the work is never really done. You're always just peeling back the layers and finding new things to heal and new opportunities.
What's been that differentiation between I thought I was doing the work as opposed to like, oh, now I realize I'm actually working, and before I was just half-assing it? Like, what's a big awareness point there?
Well, I think I started by looking at my childhood and kind of shifting that, what my childhood didn't happen to me, it happened for me. But then there was this different layer of how that kind of plays into our relationship and how that actually affects our relationship, and just diving deeper into childhood trauma and shadows and like the way I respond, and I didn't even notice that before. And then there was the whole business aspect of, I thought we were doing pretty okay being entrepreneurs and running a business, and then the minute we started pushing through that ceiling and hitting another level, I realized how much we actually did not have figured out.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think for me, I had this idea that that truth is like, once you uncover the truth, like, it's just there. And like, for example, for me, it was truth where my religious beliefs were concerned. And so I walked away from the religion of my youth, right? And the religion that I spread and that I was a part of. So I walked away from that, and I thought, okay, that hurt. That was hard. And so now I have no belief, and I'm okay with that, right? And so for a while, I walked in this atheist, agnostic worldview and almost making fun of any belief system, certainly in my head. And at times I was arrogant enough to do it out loud, and toxic enough to do it out loud because of my own pain and that. And anytime there's trauma, there's always hurt and pain around it, right? At least there was for me, like the trauma of not being worthy of God's love, the trauma of being worthy of judgment, of being worthy of shame anytime I messed up. But I didn't realize that was the trauma for a long time. And like until 4 weeks ago, maybe.
Right.
I mean, legitimately. I mean, I knew it was there. So the way I look at it, and what I've told Tiff, and I told her this after a journey, plant medicine journey last fall. You know, I've realized, and it was scary. It was scary for me to realize that there are layers to truth. Like you get to one layer and you say, okay, like for example, I don't believe in a singular prophet. Okay, that's a truth. I don't believe that anymore. But what's the next level? Does that mean God or source or the power of the universe no longer speaks to man or woman? Is that what it means? For me, for a long time, that's what it meant. But that wasn't truth. And I mean, it might be for somebody, but for me, it's not. And so, like, okay, so then that becomes a truth. Now, what's the next truth? And there's always these divergent paths. And so,
Yeah.
and every path, for me anyways, sorry, sweetheart, when we go there, like the potential for pain to go to the next level of truth, it's scary shit. And are you sure you want to go and uncover another layer?
Yeah. I went down this path of becoming a yoga teacher, you know, and it was really funny because I recognized that what he went through was spiritual abuse in a sense, because he didn't allow himself to have faith of any kind. He wasn't going to be fooled by anything. And he had trauma where like rituals were concerned, and it was like so difficult for us for a while because he'd almost like, I don't want to say like ridicule me, but sometimes he would like, I felt judged because I was participating in this, and he'd be like, you know, I'm not going to participate in any of that bull crap. That's like woo woo to me. And I'm like, okay, well, and it was like, we just kind of continued down this journey. And recently he prayed again for the first time in a really, like since we've been together. Mm-hmm. Like I realized that I was missing this, that we had never prayed together because he did not believe in prayer. And, so yeah, that was really interesting.
What was that like?
Yeah.
Beautiful, humbling, and it was and powerful at the same time, and it was unlike any prayer I'd ever said before, and it was the most sincere prayer because I number one, I've like studied other methods of prayer and rituals of prayer outside of the Judeo-Christian method of prayer, of praying to God in the name of Jesus Christ, and like almost a really set way of praying, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And not that I have a problem with that form of prayer, that just didn't resonate with me anymore. And so I felt like I was communicating directly to source, whatever that is. And then it just became gratitude for what I already saw and the result that I was looking for. The thing the peace I was looking for, the joy. Ever since I left Mormonism and then went down this path, and in 2016 I went to jail. I pled guilty to a second-degree felony communication fraud involving stuff in real estate, and after that I spent 8 months in the Salt Lake County jail. And after that I went on this journey for peace. I just wanted to feel peace because I felt so much turmoil. I would get angry, so angry. It's one of the reasons why I started training jiu-jitsu, because I wanted to feel peace among chaos, like, because it's the ultimate for me anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you are in the middle of chaos and you have to find a way, because when Craig is smashing you, you have to figure out a way to breathe.
Yeah.
Still, you have to figure out a way to not panic, and still find peace. But I could see it, I could feel it, and I just got into gratitude for that feeling, that thing that I knew was there, and I said thank you for that feeling, and thank you for this peace. But it wasn't the peace that I was feeling when I started praying, because I was in turmoil.
Was the like, we're 5-10 minutes in or whatever, and I've got 600 questions already. I'm so excited. There's so many wonderful things. A lot of stuff that we resonate with. I already know that Stephanie is like, yes. So I'm excited to pick you guys' brain a little bit more. But Brad, was it the Mormon Church? Was it just the whole, like, brought up in the Mormon Church and went on a mission, whole 9 yards?
Yeah, my parents were converted when I was 3.
Okay.
We lived in Puerto Rico, of all places. My dad was already a member, and my mom joined when I was 3, and they went like deep in. And so I was raised mostly on the eastern part of the United States, but then I came to BYU as a freshman, went to BYU, went on a mission, came back from my mission, went back to BYU, married a girl from Sandy. We had 4 kids, and then I was divorced in 2009. A really ugly divorce, precipitated by infidelity on my part, and financial collapse also on my part. And also the real estate market. I was a part of that, and I was a developer. Oh
my gosh, I'm so excited. I don't mean to get excited by your misery and your pain, but
it's fine, because it was a mess.
Yeah.
And I am, over time, figuring out what the message is. And there is a powerful message in there. And when I was in jail, I wrote and I said to Tiff, look, if I can't take this terrible, awful experience, because it's the worst place to be.
I worked there.
I know.
When you said Salt Lake County, I'm all, sweet. What housing unit were you in?
I was in Oxbow for most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in the programs. Yeah. I was in the garden, because low risk, easy guy to get
That's the way to
with.
do time.
Oh, he was a model inmate.
Right? I bet he was.
I spent 242 days in jail. 232 of them were in Oxbow.
Yeah.
And and if you have to go to the ADC, like, that's the place to get to as quickly as possible. And but even with it being like the most ideal situation, still jail.
Still sucked.
Yeah, still sucked. Well, and I believed, like, as I got to know so many of the COs, because there were some great correction officers, like wonderful men and women, and I thought, man, this is a terrible place for you too.
It was horrible. Yeah. I spent 2.5 years in there, and it was like, I mean, it damn near, it destroyed so much of me. Yeah. Like, so much of me.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah,
I watched it,
really,
and I felt
really miserable.
I felt a lot of compassion for the correction officers in there, because I could see the pain and the hurt. I mean, there's no win-win in there.
No, everybody loses.
Everybody's losing.
Everybody loses.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything about it is designed so that everybody loses, right?
Yeah.
Even working there.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
I hated it. I hated
I'm
all
sure.
of it.
Yeah.
It was so terrible. I was not, I mean, I was a nice guy. I was a nice CO, but I was also just a hard motherfucker. Like, there was zero
you have to be.
tolerance for anything. Everybody hated me, all the prisoners, because it was just like, fucking Salazar's here again, and I'm the guy that's
What year did you work there?
2007, 2008, something like that, I think. I think that's when I started.
Yeah.
Brad did have one old CO that, like, had it out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wanted to see Brad screw up.
He resented the fact that I got through Oxbow as good as I did, because I never got tiered. I was squeaky clean.
Yeah.
Nobody's squeaky clean, but I was not getting caught if I was doing anything wrong.
Right.
And he knew it. He had been there long enough, and he knew.
How long have you guys have been together for like 12 years, right?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And so was this kind of right in the middle of the relationship when you went to jail?
Yeah. So I got charged in 2013.
Okay.
When
We got married in 2012. So it happened because, so when Brad and I first started dating, he was just going through hell. I could see like the sadness, he just carried so much. And I just wanted to talk to him because I was going through a lot too. I was going through my divorce, and it was at like Whitney at Trax actually said, man, you need to talk to Brad. You and him are like going through similar things. And I was like, yeah, maybe I will. And, anyway, when we first started dating, his ex-wife was not letting him see his kids at all. And they were just vicious, like always coming at him. And like, I felt like, they were just kicking him while he was down, like
she means my
relentless.
ex-wife and my ex-father-in-law, who is an attorney and was had lost about $350,000, well, $385,000 to be precise.
And his ex-wife, he gave her everything. Like when we met, he had nothing. Everything that he was making was going to her, and she had the house, but because she's she didn't work and ended up losing the house and moving into the basement of her dad's basement, right? And so they just obsessed about this. And they really just wanted him to go away and not have anything to do with the kids and just disappear. And he thought about it. And when we got together, I was like, no, like you're not going to just roll over and not have anything to do with your kids. You need to fight. Your kids need to know that you fought for them. Mm-hmm. And I'll help you do that. Like whatever you need to do. And got to the point where we were driving into Sandy every other weekend, and it had probably been 4.5 months. And we had driven out every other weekend and every Wednesday, and Ben rejected. The kids wouldn't even come out of the house. And his ex-wife would call him and say, they're not coming. They don't want to come. And we were driving back, and I'm like, you need to do something about this. They already had an order in place. And so we did some research. We didn't have a ton of money to hire an attorney, but I did some research, and I'm like, you need to file an order to enforce your parent time. It's already been ordered. It's every other weekend. You just need to say that that's not happening and enforce it through the courts. So when we did, I still remember the day we went to the courthouse to file this motion that we drew up ourselves. He looked at me and he was like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm sure we want to do this. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, this is going to open up a can of worms. And, Roger's he's a pretty powerful guy, and he's not just going to roll over and take this. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck what Roger does. This is your kids that we're fighting for. Like, we're going to do it. And so we did it. And he came after Brad hard after that, filed criminal, like everything. He basically retired from his full-time law firm and obsessed about putting a case together to put Brad in jail. It was crazy. It was really crazy.
Is that where the charges stemmed from?
Yeah.
Was all of his work?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
Yeah, he put together like a dossier of charges, and he got together. I mean, I always say this anytime Tiff gives her perspective. Number one, he would have had nothing to put together if I hadn't fucked up. Like, I created it, and my defense attorneys, other defense attorneys said. Because I ended up, so me and another title officer ended up getting charged, and I ended up testifying when I was in jail in his criminal case, and he was found
Brad
innocent.
took a plea bargain. We were advised by our attorneys to not take it to trial because he forged his ex-wife's name on a trust deed. That was the thing he was guilty of. And they were like, look, if you're found guilty on forgery, it's potentially 15 years in federal prison. So it's not worth
federal,
it. State prison.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it. Just take the plea. So
it was a 1 to 15. It was a third-degree felony. It would be 1 to 15 years.
For a signature.
Yeah, with a opportunity for parole after 3 years.
Yeah.
And this was in 2015. I thought, man, 3 years is a long time. That's a
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got charged in 2013. I remember the day. It was April 22nd, 2013. I was actually at the courthouse, of all places, because I buy foreclosure properties. And so foreclosure was happening at the Salt Lake courthouse. And I got a message from my sister, my older sister. And she said, "Brad, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." What do you, like, we hardly ever talk, you know? And she said, "Call me." And so I called her, and she said, "Angie, my ex-wife, has just let me know that you've been charged with 7 or 8 felony counts." I was like, "What?" And I mean, my heart sunk. So I was at the courthouse, so I could go get the charges right then. I didn't even have to wait for them to be served to me.
Yeah.
I went and picked them up, and was told to appear, you know, a couple days later, and did the book and release thing because I'm not a, you know, threat. And I remember I called Tiff as I was coming home, and I had read all the charges, and I said, "This is bad. This is really, really, really bad." Like there was pattern of unlawful activity, forgery, multiple communication fraud.
By this time, I had already had my real estate license and been practicing real estate and had already been exposed to this whole real estate world of lots of other investors who had done exactly what Brad did. And it wasn't a big deal. Everybody had done that. Everybody had lost money. So I wasn't worried about it. I was like, man, we're going to go to court. Everyone's going to see that your ex-father-in-law is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And nobody is going to take this guy seriously. Like I was not worried about it. And he was like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know, you know?"
Anyway, I told her at that point, I said, you know, she was pregnant with Junior, our little guy. And I said, you know, the baby hasn't been born yet, but if you want out, now's the time to do it. Like, nobody would blame you for saying this just got really crazy. And she said, "Are you kidding me? This is not when I bail. This is when we get closer." And so we got closer, and we banded together.
So it was 3 years. We went through several different attorneys because his ex-father-in-law would just wear the attorneys out. He was just filing motion after motion, just like playing head games. And like, we had a couple of attorneys that are like, this is just crazy, you know? So finally, we actually had to borrow money from one of Brad's good friends. We borrowed 20 grand.
25
grand to go get a high-priced attorney because it became apparent that like,
I was going to trial. Like, we thought I was going to go to trial, and you don't want to go to trial with a public defender.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
Especially with something like that, with multiple felony counts.
So how does this whole thing just kind of fuck your life, right? I mean, obviously it does in so many different ways, but like, what are some of the things that you're still kind of trying to put back together after this experience? Because it's been several years, right?
It kept us small in our business. We were afraid of really going after it.
Yeah.
And we thought we needed to fly under the radar, not because we were doing anything wrong, but because we just didn't want to rock the boat too much, you know? And so we still deal with that.
Yeah.
To this day.
I'm prohibited as part of my plea bargain. I'm prohibited from any fiduciary responsibilities. So like, I can't represent anybody else, and I'm not a licensed agent anymore. I was for a decade or so. So I can't do it anyway, but I have to be very careful. Very careful. Like, I now run the construction side of our business. I was never a construction guy, but I had to learn something to be able to bring value to our business, to our family. I couldn't just say, "Hey, Tiff, go out there and sell a bunch of houses, and I'll stay home and take care of the kids." Although I did for a while, as we were trying to figure things out, and as I was going through the last year or so before I went to jail, I was kind of on like pause, like, and my attorney said, "You can't do anything right now. Like, just keep a very low profile." And the baby Junior had just been born, so I was like, well, I'll stay at home. And we were still remodeling and flipping a few houses, and so I just kind of managed them very, very quietly and tried to stay out of the view of anybody.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me because like, I love being in front of people. I love talking. I love sharing. I love
being the center stage.
I don't mind being the center. I don't have to be, but if nobody else is going to step up and do it, I'll do it. And so that's been a really hard thing for me. And then there's also economic or financially, it's been really tough. I had a $1,000 a month restitution order, and so paying $1,000 a month is tough. That's hard. And I've got people coming after me. So the victims, while they still have a restitution, they can still come after me civilly, and they are. And so I'm still fighting some of that. And so, people don't understand when you're dealing with civil and criminal issues like that, the weight. And I'm not asking for sympathy. I mean, and a lot of people hear, "Oh, you're so tough, like you're a fucking criminal." Okay, and I'm a dad, and I'm a husband.
The mindset of because we make a mistake somehow it just washes away everything else,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's I have the same mindset at times, right? I'll definitely judge people that way, and I'll see it.
I do too.
Oh, tough shit for you, motherfucker, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously you made the bed, now you got to lay in it,
Right.
But I mean, for me personally, I've made so many fucking mistakes. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of times where I just didn't get caught.
Right.
And it's not even in regards to the realm of legality and legal issues. It's I have mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And some of them have been devastating and have, in one way, shape, or form kind of destroyed my life and the people around me many times. And that internalized shame and that internalized, telling your wife, "Hey, I totally understand if you want to bail at this point. I'm a piece of shit. This is going to get even worse. I get it. No blame." The level of just internalized shame that you're dealing with, where you're willing to just let everything go because I'm a sinking ship. And that mindset is, I'm talking about it because I'm really, it's an honorable thing that you've done to be able to go through that experience and still stick around and try to live your life. So many times men mess up and make a mistake, and then they leave that life.
Yeah.
And they go, live some other life that they have to kind of piece together.
Right.
And staying and dealing with everything is really, really, really hard to do. And I give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you.
He actually, sorry, honey.
No, go ahead.
He wanted to deal with it. He wanted to take ownership of all of it. He wanted redemption, right? And to him, redemption meant just letting it all out. I'm this terrible person, punish me. And I felt at the time, and still sometimes I feel he took on more than what was his in order to try to obtain this redemption. And in their eyes, it still wasn't enough, right? But for me, I'm his intention was never to go out and lose people's money. He didn't take the money and go buy some yacht somewhere, and spend the money on something else. He was doing a real estate development when the real estate market literally crashed. and the thing he was guilty of is not just running to all of his partners right away and saying, "Oh, by the way, the $350,000 you gave me for this development is gone forever and there's nothing I can do about it." He was trying to keep all the balls in the air, like 99% of humans would.
Right.
Go ahead, Steph.
No, I just how is that criminal?
Oh, well, so what's criminal is if Craig gives me $100,000 for Project A, and Steph's giving me $100,000 for Project B, and I take $50,000 of Craig's money from Project A and use it to finish Project B, that's criminal.
Okay.
It's called robbing from Peter to pay Paul, right?
And
it's one of the most common practices in business then, now, and will be in the future. People do it all the time.
He had several different developments going. And so when it was obvious that Project A is going nowhere, he's like, okay, well then let's move everything over to Project B, because then we can save it there and then I can get everybody's money back. And I won't have any money, but at least all of these guys can get their money back, right? So that's
but what happened was the game stopped. The wheel stopped in 2008. And so there was nothing. For example, one project that before the crash, it was valued at $2.6 million. It sold at the county foreclosure steps. It was 11 lots in Cottonwood Heights that we had entitled and developed, and we were going to build houses on. it sold at the foreclosure steps for $540,000, a $1.8 million loss.
It's big.
Well, like, you can't just go and grab money. I'm not the Fed.
Yeah.
I'm not the U.S. government. I can't go say, hey, I don't have enough money. I need to pay this off. When you do it as a private citizen, it's fraud. When you do it as a federal government, it's an budget problem.
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I've
Exactly.
seen that happen many, many times.
Yes.
And it's,
Yeah. It's
And what happened in 2008 is super unfortunate because it was the smaller like investors, the big banks, they were fine.
Yeah.
But if you were a smaller person and somebody needed to take the fall, it was the smaller guys that took the fall.
Yeah. But Craig, you mentioned something, and I wanted to touch this because some people like, they'll literally run away and go to another part of the country or another country altogether. I speak Spanish. I'm fluent in Spanish. I was raised in Puerto Rico. I went on a Spanish-speaking mission. I lived in Puerto Rico after my mission. I deal really well in Spanish-speaking cultures, and there were times where I thought about it. I could go to Mexico. I could go to South America. I could blend in. I would never be seen again. I could start all over again. And I mean, the thought would come to my mind, and then immediately, like, the fuck are you even thinking? Like, what about Abby? What about Gabe? What about Rachel? What about Sam? My kids? What are they going to think? They're going to think that they're going to know that I'm this loser. And that's okay. But what will they then think about themselves if they are 50% this guy that runs away? And then what will that do to their kids? And so on and so forth. And I couldn't carry that. I got into deep, dark depression at times and dealt with suicidal thoughts and even ideation. Like, okay, this is how it's going to happen. And then again, like, how does that fix it? How does that solve it? And I'm lucky, I'm fortunate that there was something that would snap me out of it and say, no, there is a reason to keep going on. And sometimes it was just the breath that I was feeling at that moment, or my own heartbeat, that would be enough for me to remember, no, this is worth living for. This is worth going on. And then having a relationship with Tiff, and we blended our family. There's 8 kids, and now with like in-law children that come along, there's 13 of us. I mean, we've got this amazing unit, and all the pain, all the suffering, all the heartache is absolutely worth it. And I wouldn't take any of it away. Like, not one day in ADC, not one day in Oxbow, not one day of the trauma, not one day of the concern. I wouldn't take any of it away.
People have asked me, like, did you regret, like, filing that motion? Because it ultimately was...
It was the catalyst, huh?
Yeah, it was. And the answer is no, because we did blend our family, like, really well. Our kids, it wasn't easy. And while we were doing it...
We could do an entire, not an episode of the podcast, we could do a whole other podcast series about blending families and what it's like
hard.
and how hard it is.
Probably should.
Right? It is a nightmare.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But I feel like we were successful in doing it. Like, all of our kids get along. They all like each other, and it didn't start out that way.
Right.
So
Yeah, we met with Matt Townsend. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a relationship guy. He was on KSL, and he's got some great programs. And we met with him in 2014.
A relationship therapist. Yeah.
Relationship therapist, yeah. And we learned a lot from him. And but the thing he said, like, when we first told him our story, he said, well, first of all, I want to say, like, congratulations, because most people would not even attempt. And we were talking simply about bringing our family together, blending our family. Most people don't try this. Like, when you're an adult and you have kids, most people don't even try to bring them together. They just, you'll date.
our kids were so different too. Like, his kids were super Mormon. My kids knew nothing about Mormonism. They were like, what is it? Like, you guys don't drink coffee? Like, you can't swim on Sundays? What?
Yeah, and her kids, her 2 boys and her little girl, but especially her 2 boys, like, they've been raised in Tooele, and they loved fishing. They loved, like, being dirty and like just like boys. Like these boys are awesome. And my kids were like East Side Sandy kids.
Like Gabe made a comment the other day because they wore white T-shirts under everything, and what did Gabe call it?
He called them garments in training.
My garments in training. I was wearing my garments in training that I would wear every day, and that's like they did.
Yeah.
And my kids never wore a shirt. They were walking around, shirtless all the time. Like, you have 2 shirts on and it's 95 degrees outside.
Did you guys know? I think like when Steph and I got together, at least for me, I thought it was going to be way easier. I thought like we'll have some hiccups when it comes to blending the family and kind of, because when we bought this house, that's when we all moved in together into this house. And that was 2014, right?
Yeah.
Is that when we decided? And we had been obviously spending copious amounts of time as a family, kind of in a sense, leading up to it. But I thought it was going to be just way easier. I thought that, we'll figure it out. There'll be some tension, and it'll eventually just be normal. And
I had it all figured out.
Did you?
Because I had seen everything needed to be equal, because I came from a blended family. And so I knew what to not do. And everything's going to be fair, going to listen to everybody, and just going to like cultivate these relationships, basically micromanage the fuck out of everything. And as you're laughing, you know how well that works.
Yeah.
It did not. It was, oh my God, it was not what I expected. It was going to be this beautiful, happy, like, here's all this love and everybody. And instead it was like screaming and crying and holes getting like put in walls. I'm like, what is happening? It was
it
not
was a shitstorm.
It was not what I visioned.
Did you guys deal with like your exes almost like facilitating and like it not work?
That's one thing that we had. I think both of our exes have been challenging over the years in their own ways, but we also didn't have a lot of influence. Even
That's not accurate.
I mean,
that's really false. I mean, that's one perspective, but I don't know where it's coming from.
It's wrong, but it's one perspective. Yeah, I'm sure it was all a shitstorm.
Yeah. It was.
We dealt with that at a really high level, and that made it really difficult.
Yeah, we had Tiff's boys tell us, like, it wasn't that long ago when we were looking at pictures of our wedding, tell us that their dad was telling them how they could sabotage our wedding. Like, literally.
Yeah,
and giving him ideas on how
to fuck it up. And they didn't. They were amazing. But
and his kids never even came to our wedding.
My kids didn't even come.
They wouldn't get pictures done. I remember when we moved in together, I wanted them to feel welcome, So what little pictures he had of his kids, and I think I took some pictures off of your phone, off Facebook, and printed them out and like put pictures of his kids up in the house. And I thought that it would make them feel more welcome. They went and told their mom how creepy it was and how they never wanted to come back.
Oh my God.
Dang. Everything you do.
Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, and that's when you're trying to do it right. Right. And then when you get into unconscious behaviors like I do, and you fuck shit up in a major way, like not being fair, not treating kids equal, overcompensating, because I would do this.
I can relate to all that too.
I would see a behavior in one of the boys, and that would remind me of her ex, and I'd be like, I gotta fix that because that's not good. That's a bad behavior, but it was essentially them.
Yeah, it's who they are.
It's who they are. It wasn't a behavior. It was like a mannerism, something that is as much about them as their hair color.
Exactly.
Or a behavior that, like, if his kids saw it and took it back to his ex-wife, they would have something to talk about. So then he would need to fix my kids.
So they didn't do that, so I wouldn't deal with shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From who? Like, so much ego, so much, and then pain that would cause. And Tiff was like, I can't tell you how many times she would say, like, with so much love, and I mean this sincerely, like, the way you are treating the boys, or the way you were treating Trenton, or the way you were treating Javen, is not how you would treat Gabe in that situation. And I would feel my heart like sink because I knew it was true, and more shame, and more like just guilt. Like, who the fuck am I? How can I do that to this little boy? But he can choke me now, so it's all.
The
it's all
dichotomy of the whole thing is he almost, like, if there's a normal way to treat a kid, right? Because my boys lived with him. So it was like he treated them probably how he would have treated his boys if they lived with us. He wouldn't have worried so much, but he walked on eggshells with his kids, and my kids would see that, like, oh, he talks to them with so much respect, which really is the way you should talk to all kids anyway, right? But he overcompensated. Mm-hmm. And with my kids, it was just like,
shut up with your knots.
Oh, I'm just like, all of this. This is the truth. This is what it is. And it's not like pointing fingers. It's like, this is the reality of it.
It is.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is the hard reality of it. This is everybody doing their damnedest and trying their best to act out of love. And it's just...
It's a mess.
It's a mess, and
It's a
you're
beautiful
scared,
mess.
and you're
And it's-
trying so
yes.
hard with everything, and it just keeps... Yeah, this is the truth of it. So I am relating to everything, because I know you are, and you want me to be quiet. Like, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
yeah.
And through like, so when we talk about the work, like, first you've got to do the work yourself. But we always think, well, at least I always think, I thought for a long time, what the work meant was, yeah, I need to do work, but like, everybody else better be doing theirs too. You know?
What does this mean to you guys? What does, like, because I think just that term, I mean,
The work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a 12-step program or
No.
somebody's book, right?
No.
Because Steph and I, if we talk about our work, I think we very much know what that is and where we're
Such
coming
a great
from.
question, because it is kind of one of those vague terms.
We were just
that-
talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
Like, most people don't even understand what the work means.
Right, but because we sit here all the time, I can't tell you how many times we have conversations, and there's definitely some unhealthiness to it. But what we'll do is, at least me personally, I will sit here and I'll compare our relationship to all the other relationships that I see around me and all the other people. And I'm always like, well, we're not that. That's good. Maybe we need a little bit more of this. But oftentimes it's like the recognition of what seems to me from the outside that nobody's doing the work. Everybody's got these fucked relationships that seem to be full of hurt and pain and suffering. And I'm like, fix those things, people. Come on, it's not that hard. But then you and I have been those people at certain times, right? We've been the people that aren't doing any work at all and are just spiraling in chaos and pain and suffering.
Yeah.
So what does the work look like for you guys when
So-
you talk about it,
The work for us, and again, it's one of those things that we thought we were doing the work.
right? Thought you had your shit together.
Yeah. And for us, what it looked like before was looking at the hard shit, right? Like having the hard conversations and being able to say, okay, we just need to be honest. Whenever we're feeling something, we need to talk about it. We need to address it, and we need to look at ourselves and like what we can control and our reactions. And that's what the work was when we, and it got us to this place where we are now, but then we realized there's even more to be done. But we were we made it a habit to not run away from problems. If there's a problem, we need to address it head on. We need to always be accountable for our own shit, like what we can do better, and try to not blame, And I felt like we were pretty good at that. But it wasn't always perfect. Like it wasn't. We definitely had lots of battles, but I do have to commend Brad. Like even if he had a big old ego flare when I brought something to him that I needed to have addressed,
Ego flare, I love that.
Yeah.
he would eventually come back and be like, okay, can we talk about this again? But we recently went through this course. I'll let you talk about it, Brad. You want to talk about it?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
So first of all, an ego flare for me is when anytime she says, Brad, we need to talk about something. I mean, first of all, for a long time, like, we need to talk about something. Oh, fuck. What have I done?
That's always my first thought.
Right.
It's still today,
Yeah.
right? If we're having a conversation, even if it's like a conversation that we're in the middle of and I recognize that Steph's upset about something or there's something that has occurred to disrupt her nervous system, what have I done? Fuck, I've done something. And then I'm immediately like scanning, future forward, backwards, looking for the source of her pain that I have clearly caused.
Right. Yeah. And so first of all, recognizing that those points of hurt, if Tiff is being triggered, if she's being like, if her nervous system is firing, I did trigger it. Something I did triggered it. And so we've are developing a way of communicating it, following some simple rules. Like, sweetheart, I can see obviously like something I've said is upsetting. And I want to understand that. And don't blame her for being upset. Like, this is not her fault. It's not my fault. Like, you're obviously upset. So let's dive into that. But more often than not, it's me that's upset. So she has to more often than not say, sweetheart, it's obvious, like, you're upset about something. Like, this is upsetting to you, and I just want to and like, then she reassures me. And then we have some commitments that we're making. We didn't bring our journal. We should, because we're like going through this process of our commitments. So we make agreements of how we're going to engage, because it's not a matter of if we're going to trigger each other. When what we've learned recently is like this journey that you guys have accepted, this coupling of two souls is the most beautiful, most difficult, most amazing path of getting through life and of getting through this journey. And because
there is actually a yogic path that is the yoga of relationships. And it's one of the hardest paths to enlightenment, because your partner is your biggest mirror. Your partner is the biggest reflection of all of your shadows, of all of your darkness, and so to have that being reflected back to you. And we're told in society that that's like a sign that maybe we shouldn't be in the relationship or whatever, but really it's an invitation to heal.
And so,
how deep are you guys going with mirror work? Because for us, like, it's been something that we have been aware of for a really long time. Just the concept and idea of how we mirror those things back and forth to each other, right? And obviously, like you said, yes, I did trigger Stephanie. There was something that I did, something that I said. So we've been aware of the concept, the idea, the reality of it for a really, really long time, I think. But for me, and Steph, I'll let you speak for yourself. I have seen it like it's a deep, and it's like you were talking earlier at the beginning of the podcast about like a new truth that do you know what I mean? Like it's this evolutionary growth of what you thought yesterday isn't going to be what you think today. And that process is really hard to go through if we resist it. So it's kind of the same thing where I thought we had an understanding of triggering one another and mirroring for one another. And then there's just like this whole other subconscious layer that I've become aware of how deep it runs and how deep it actually is, because of how deeply connected we are. And so, I mean, I'm to the point now where so often I feel like we are the same person, and we're having, I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast recently, where it's like we have the exact same thought at the same time. Like it's not I'm picking up on your spiritual energy wavelength and I'm kind of interpreting it through my filters. That happens sometimes. And then there's times where we're just literally in the exact same neural pathway thinking the exact same things. And it's fucking trippy as fuck.
it's so crazy.
Sorry, babe, what do you feel? Does that feel accurate?
It does feel
Or
accurate.
am I in my own neural pathway?
No, you're over there on your own. You're just floating around. No, it's like, it's hard. Like, I think the layers to the mirror work was something that I didn't expect, because it was just like that reflection. I understood the layers, and with life and where you're at and what you're working with and how you can look at things, and it shifts, as you always say, multidimensional, multifaceted. But I was so surprised that it was like pulling layers off of a mirror, and it's like you have this and then you're reflecting the same thing, and you're seeing it at in the different levels, and how it just feels like you are like in the double mirror where you can just see all these like, and it just keeps going. There's always something new to uncover, and it doesn't mean it's a new thing. It can be that same thing that resurfaces, and you're seeing that in a new way. It just, that blows my mind.
Yeah, I think
The
we've
work
got
is
like
never done.
we've got like 3 problems. That's all. We're just
Right?
working 3 problems, but we work them so much, and all those problems have a gazillion sides and aspects to it. So it's like, fuck, I thought we figured this one out, and we did just one little tiny
One
narrow
part of it,
slice
right?
of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then it opened up more, and it opened up more, and so it's like that's what it feels like sometimes. Is we're just going over and over the same fucking problem, like
So true.
rubbing
Like
your
running
tongue.
away from stuff, and you thought you've healed that,
Uh-huh.
but then you find yourself running away from this other thing that's actually like you're still running away from the same thing.
Exactly.
It's just showing up in a different way.
Yeah, and now you can see it because
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
done that work and that growth and that process, and I hate it.
I know. It comes back up. You're like, I literally, like, it's not even bothering me. It's not a trigger anymore.
Right.
You're through it, and then, boom.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
I
Son
love
of a bitch.
I love stories to bring these things, these basic
Are you a metaphor guy?
more story
Okay.
than metaphor. So I'll tell you exactly like a recent one. Okay. So we had just finished this 13-day, hour and a half a day training with the yoga couple, Matt and Ash. They're amazing. You should be following them, and like anybody who's in a couple
On Instagram, the
on
yoga couple.
Instagram and Telegram, and you should get their books. And they've got a beautiful book called The Inner Work that really describes everything we're talking about in a beautiful way. They also wrote a book called
The Blood Book.
The
It's
Blood
about
Book.
the feminine menstrual cycle and how the masculine and the feminine are different and how they can come into harmony. It's awesome.
On a side, Matt is probably 36, and I think Ash is a little younger than that, maybe a little older. I don't know. They're in that same age. One of the hardest things, because I'm 50 years old, and I got into this point where I'm like, anybody who's in their mid-30s, go fuck yourself. You don't know
I'm
what
there
the
with
fuck
you.
you're talking about. You haven't experienced anything. You
Right.
don't know what you're talking about, and I was completely wrong. Like,
Yeah, I'm
Completely
having a
wrong.
hard time letting go of that one because it's
understandable, but it's beautiful when you do,
I
because
bet.
there is so much wisdom
Yeah.
in that generation that I was completely discounting. And so we just finished this course, and on Sunday, February 13th, and on Thursday, February 17th, yeah, or 16th, whatever that Thursday is after that, 17th. Tooele County Sheriff showed up at my door and said, "Here's some papers. There's an order show cause to hold you in violation of your probation because I had fallen behind on payments, my $1,000 a month restitution payment."
And I didn't know.
And Tiff didn't know. And I have truth tattooed on my forearm in Latin because I'm supposed to fucking tell the truth. So when we say we have this agreement, we mean it. And I fucking didn't keep it. And because of shame, I'm supposed to be the fucking king around here. I'm supposed to be taking care of my shit. And she calls me. I'm at our office. And she says, "Are you behind on your restitution payments?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Like how much?" And I said, "I'm not even sure. I think."
You're violating your probation. You're going to go back to jail. And he was like, I know. I'm like, what the fuck?
So I immediately called my attorney and said, "I have fucked up. What do I do?" She said, "If can you get caught up?" And I said, "I can do better. I think I can pay the entire balance. What happens if I pay the entire balance?" And it was $35,000. And she said, "If you can do that, it goes away." I
But
said,
literally, that was all we had. Like, all we had.
and we run a business. And so and I said, like, if we do this, like, this is going to be a challenge. And she said, "Do it. Like, do it right now." And I did it. And
Luckily, we had just gone through this course because for me, I was like, I saw myself spinning out. Like, he lied to me, didn't tell me he was behind. Has he really fucking learned anything? Like, what the hell is he thinking? And what we learned through this course is how to recognize each other's shadow and how to not I guess trigger that shadow so that your partner, because that's when it blows up, adding all that fuel to the fire. Oh, there goes my And also recognizing my own shadow, you know. And for me, what I had learned is because of my childhood, my go-to was nobody's going to support me. I've got to fix everybody else. I've got to just handle shit. No one, like, I can't depend on anybody. So I see all this coming up for me. Like, I should have freaking been the one to make sure he was paying his freaking restitution. You know, I wasn't looking out for that. So I can't depend on anybody. I can't depend on him. And I started recognizing all of those stories. And then I knew for him, because of the religious trauma, he deals with all of the shame and guilt and not being good enough. And when I screw up, just punish me, right? Shame me, guilt me. And that can send him into this spiral. And so I was like, I had to just take a breather and say, okay, what kind of outcome do I want from this? Like, how do I want this to end? And visualize, like, what do we need from this? And I started realizing that, okay, we have the money to pay it off. And we just went through like our finances and, you know, our goals, and what the first thing that we wanted to pay off was his restitution. That was like the first thing on our financial goal, is get his restitution paid off. And so I was like, okay, well, this is something we wanted to do anyway. The universe is showing up for us.
Yeah.
Like, we're paying it off. It doesn't look the way that I had imagined it to look, but that's a celebration. So I can twist this without sending him into this deep, dark depression, which I know he's probably going to go through anyway. He's going to beat himself up. I just need to show up in love for him. As hard as it's going to be, because I can recognize that for me, I feel super insecure about this. I feel like I'm not supported. All of this stuff is coming up for me, but I need to communicate that and ask him how, you know, we need to come up with a solution. How are we going to prevent this from happening again? But I don't need to guilt him and shame him, and we don't need to go there, you know. And man, it was really valuable, because had we not just gotten that training, it would have been really bad, really, really bad.
Yeah, that could have been like a relationship ender type of deal.
Yeah.
And she could have said, you know, you're an idiot, go to court and I go to jail or prison, or, you know, they terminate probation and enact all whatever at that point. And then your freedom is really gone. My freedom would be really gone. So,
I would need to ask you. I
Yes.
mean, interrupt you.
Go ahead.
From a spiritual perspective, because it sounds like you guys are very spiritually open. What is the fucking lesson that you're continuing to learn, Brad? Like, the thing that recently Steph and I were talking, we've been taking advantage how nice the weather's been. We go out for this nice little stroll and we take a little walk. And I don't think it was actually on a walk. I don't remember when it was. We talked too much. Not to fuck. We talk so much, right? Who knows when it was? We had conversations at some point.
Did you get lost?
The recognition of repeating the same pattern over and over
The loop.
again. So it's like Stephanie has a loop right now that she's going through, and it's like she's learning a lesson over and over and over and over. And oftentimes, like, this lesson for Steph is one that is in relationship to friendship, and it's like this thing that's going on with another person. And I just saw it so clearly the other day, and I asked her, I'm like, do you still need that lesson? Like, that's thing, obviously you're still needing that lesson because you're still repeating the same pattern. So it's not to sit, but like the hiding part of it, right? Because I can relate a lot with, I'm constantly breaking down what I do, right? Overanalyzing every action, every word, every thought, every feeling, everything like that. So the concept and idea of hiding something. So we have shame and we have an action of this thing, right? Yeah. I let the payments fall behind. Eventually, I really checked out and just said, I don't even know where I'm at with this thing. It's too overwhelming. It's too scary. Things are going so well probably on one side that I'm afraid that this other thing is going to come in and wipe it all away. So I'm trying to hide it and trying to ignore it. I'm not looking at it. I'm not even aware that it's there anymore.
Yes.
It's exactly that.
So what is the lesson? Because I can relate. So I want to know what your perspective is in hopes of it bringing me some clarity, because there's something about like the act of hiding shame and I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's,
My heart, just so you know, my heart is like going right now because I feel that so deeply that, first of all, that shame, like when we talk about shadow work, you know, Carl Jung, who introduced this idea of shadow work, goes deep, right? And you understand shame at a very child level, right? The inner child within each of us. That and for me, like I can, the first time I felt it, and the first time that I can source it, anyways, was when I was 7 years old, and we were at my grandparents' lake cabin in Lake Lanier, Georgia, and I had gone with a buddy to his house, and he said, "You wanna see a pussy?" I had no idea what he meant by that, but I was like, "Sure, whatever." And he pulled out a Penthouse magazine and started showing me naked women from his dad's thing underneath, right? I was like, holy cow. I mean, I immediately felt terrible. Like, I know I shouldn't be looking at this, but I like it. And then like 2 weeks later, I got baptized. And when I got baptized, you know, in the Mormon religion, when you get baptized, you're supposed to be this amazing, like, you get the Spirit, the gift of the Holy Ghost. And you're supposed to have this, like, really great feeling. And I felt terrible. And I knew it was because I had looked at these magazines. And I didn't tell anybody because when I was interviewed by my bishop, I didn't tell him. And that just, but then everybody around me said how great I was. And so I got this approval. I got some feeding, you know, some emotional feeding, even though inside I felt like shit. But then it compensated with feelings of, no, you're fine, you're great. So the lesson to learn, number one is it, and what I've learned even since then, a book that Tiffany read, I haven't read it, but she's just discussed the principles with me, is it didn't start with you. So we're talking generational stuff, right? Like it goes deeper, because if we really are this soul that just continues, and this energy that is interconnected with all energy, including our ancestors, there's something deeper there. So
the book is, I highly recommend it, by the way, but it talks about how literally there's these shifts in our DNA as we experience trauma. And like it passes on through your DNA. So something that maybe you didn't experience yourself, but it's the idea of karma. And it's like at a scientific biological level, it's real.
Yeah. So what we're talking about, what shame, guilt, all those feelings are, they are the opposite of soul freedom. They're like it keeps you literally locked down. And whatever the energy is, that whether it's like some, you know, evil force or just that low level vibrational thing, it keeps you from ascending to true freedom. You know, Viktor Frankl talks about the peace of mind. That where is it that freedom really exists? It's between impulse and reaction. That space, that's your time to make a decision. How am I going to respond? And that's where freedom is. That's where freedom really exists. And that's like how we respond. That will dictate our true soul freedom. So the lesson, I'm a man, I want to be free. Do I really? Is that really what I want? Because the ultimate soul freedom comes from, I'm not tied down by any lies. I'm not tied down by any secrets. I'm not tied down by any shame. I'm not tied down by any guilt. And so, at least that's what it is for me. And so,
living in a true integrity.
But that is not, and so when I say there's layers to this shit, that's what I mean. Because, okay, I'm going to, Tiff, you're going to see the next layer of me, and this is going to be scary. And by the way, if you think that's scary, wait till I heal that. Because there's going to be something else. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be something else until we get like to that true soul freedom where I can say,
See, I don't think even then.
Probably not,
Right.
Craig.
There's
Probably
always
not.
something
Because like
else.
and that's not really. Yeah, you're exactly right.
I think that's the nature of energy.
Yeah.
Right? Where it isn't an endpoint at any given point.
Right.
No matter
Yeah.
what evolutionary standpoint you're
Yeah.
at, there's always more work. There's always more life and
But
energy to absorb and to feel.
Yeah. But I do believe there's something to like this lesson that we're supposed to learn, and it loops until you're like, okay, I got that. But then the lesson shifts. Like it's a slightly different lesson, right?
That's
Like
what I
we
was
were
saying.
talking
It's
about.
like we
Shows
got-
up in a slightly different
We
way.
got 3 problems we're dealing with, right?
Right.
Over and over and over again. When I ask you this question about what's the lesson, and I wanted some feedback, the thing that came up for me almost immediately, like I ask the question and then I get my own answer,
Tell me.
right? That it's okay to make mistakes,
Yeah.
that it's okay to mess up.
Yeah.
Like just the realization of, because there is no little mistake. For me, every mistake is life ending. Every mistake is my relationship with the woman that I love and that makes me feel the safest is over. Every mistake is that.
Yeah.
And I know that it stems 100% from childhood and 100% from trauma and 100% of, all of that taking place at some point in my life and now manifesting as an adult. But it's like just recently, it's, I continually over and over and over again have to learn this lesson that it's okay to mess up and that it doesn't mean that I'm going to be alone and that it doesn't mean that I'm going to be, kind of cast out into the wilderness without any love. Because that's what it feels
I
like.
love so much that you said that, actually, because I really felt that that's what I needed to show. I needed to show him grace. Like when I was really just kind of like, okay, like, how do I need to show up? What does he need? How do I need to heal this? What needs to happen in this situation? It was like, just kept coming to me, grace. He needs grace right now. You do not need to beat the shit out of him because he made this mistake. Yes, it's stupid. Yes, he could end up back in jail. Yes, I don't fucking understand what the hell he was thinking, and he needs grace.
I think with one of our situations recently, which I'll leave vague, but that came out and there was these words that came out of me and it was as much for him as it was for me at the time. And I think we're speaking about the same thing, but you kept apologizing and saying you don't want to hurt me and you felt like you hurt me. And I told you that just because you're hurting in front of me doesn't mean that you're hurting me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was such a huge moment of like, yeah, say that again.
Just because you're hurting in front of me doesn't mean you are hurting me.
Yeah, like the resistance to showing pain and discomfort and sadness.
Yeah.
Just to be hurting in front of Stephanie. There's so many layers to this. We just had an episode. I don't think it's out yet, technically. But we picked apart this TED Talks that I found that my therapist sent me, and it's all about this man box. And it's the couple of things that, quote unquote, men are, I'm going to butcher it.
Deceived into believing that this is what is required of them.
Yeah, so like the idea is that in order to quote unquote be a man, this is what you have to meet, this criteria. And if you fail, or if any of these kind of, you don't have these qualities or you don't live up to this, then you're going to lose that man card. You're going to lose your everything, right?
Yeah.
So do not cry openly or express emotion except anger, right? Check, done. Do not express weakness or fear. Demonstrate power and control, especially over women. Aggression and dominance. Be a protector. Do not be like a woman. Have to be heterosexual. Don't be like a gay man. Have to be tough, athletic, strength, courage. God, I keep pushing the wrong fucking buttons on my phone. Make decisions. Does not need help. Views women as property and objects. And because we're talking about like epigenetic imprinting, right? Stuff coming from our ancestors, stuff that we get from childhood. And then there's like this other big part of just society
Societal,
and shit
sure.
that we, it's not like, so my dad definitely taught me how to be in that box. So many of the lessons that I exuded from my father, whether, legitimate, actual, this is a lesson, don't do this, or just by watching him and observing his behavior, taught me damn near all of those things. And then society just reinforced it over and over and over and over again. And I had so many men in my life reinforce so many of these things. I remember playing baseball, like growing up playing baseball, little league, whole 9 yards and everything like that, and getting hurt all the time because you're a kid and you're crazy and you're playing baseball. And remember like getting hit with baseballs and like wanting to cry, but not being able, knowing that I couldn't
There's
cry.
no crying in baseball.
Couldn't be a sissy.
Right.
That's what.
And it's like, that was a simple lesson of hide your emotions and otherwise, whatever. And it was reinforced over and over and over and over and over again by society. So it's like, how in the fuck at 41 years old am I supposed to not do those things?
Yeah.
Right. Some of them I only begin to become aware of over the past maybe 5 or 10 years. And some of them are still like super subconscious programming things that it's like, damn it. One of the biggest ones for me is the protector. Like recognizing that like we talked about it on the episode that we dived into this more in depth, but I identify so much of my worth and value with that one thing, with my ability to protect. And protect means a bunch of things: provide, care for, all these kind of different things. But it really boils down to like, I can stand in front of Stephanie and protect her from whatever's coming, whether it's legitimate, violence from someone else, if it's metaphorical, emotional energy that we have to, whatever it is. My value and worth is my ability with which to stand in front of her and protect her. And I have to let that go. I have to recognize that my worth is so far more than just that. And even if I didn't have the ability to do that, to protect her, that I'm still valuable. Even if she was standing in front of me, which she does often, right? Even though I don't see it or realize it. But even then, it's like I can let go of all of that because it doesn't really mean anything. I'm still worthy of her love and still worthy of the connection and still worthy of everything that my life has to offer me, even if I can't protect her. And I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for that fucking lesson. That one to me feels like
that's not one to ask for,
taken
right?
out from under the knees. Like I'm useless at that point, throw me out back. I'm done. There's nothing else I can do.
It's really crazy when you start asking that question, right? Like, what if that was just completely taken from you and you couldn't even take on that label even if you wanted to anymore? Like if you became handicapped, or the yoga couple when we were going
That's
through
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, they said like, they were talking about sex. It's like the last class and they're like,
By the way, that was incredibly frustrating. We did this 13-day challenge and they didn't talk about sex and intimacy until the 13th one. About halfway through, I kind of got mad, right? Because like the previous night we had not had sex and I had wanted to have sex.
but he didn't tell me.
But I didn't tell her.
I was supposed to read his mind.
And the next morning I woke up and I was pissed and I went, like I took the kids to school and I was driving to the office and I was just in a shitty mood. I had left my phone at the house. I never leave my phone at the house. I mean, it's my lifeline for our business, right? And I was like, holy shit, I left my phone. That means I have to go back to Tiff. And like it hit me in the face.
He was like completely avoiding me and I had no clue why. He was like taking off early and not saying it. I was so oblivious to it.
And so I went back and I said, fuck, I have to tell you what's bothering me. She's like, please. And so we talked about it and I said, why haven't we even talked about sex and intimacy yet and how we can like communicate really clearly about that? Even though like the funny thing is like, and like probably too much information, but like for the majority of our relationship, that's been like one of the best parts of our relationship has been our intimacy. It's been amazing. And because it was a keystone for both of us. Like I had been in a largely sexless marriage before and hers was not healthy either. And so like that was a priority for both of us. And so it was funny. Anyway.
I think that's by design like that. Cause
Yeah.
I feel the same way with Steph and I, like that's always been a really strong place of pleasure and joy and kind of connection for us. And now that you're talking about it, because I think about this bigger, like the yogic work of relationships, right? And how hard that is and how difficult that is. And so there has to kind of be a flip side to that,
Yes.
which would be sex, that would be really connected and awesome and amazing.
Yeah.
So then because there's definitely, I'll be honest, there's definitely times, and especially early on in our relationship, like when we were still kind of in the quote unquote courting, yet kind of really getting involved with each other, because you kind of come to a crossroads where you're recognizing enough of, like, there's some baggage involved and you recognize it, and you also recognize that there's probably going to be more because you could see what you can see. And I remember very clearly having that moment of like, God, this is going to be hard because there's some shit there. But then the next thought was like, yeah, but man, I won't be too crass or blunt, but it was very much outweighed by the pleasure that I got from
100%, Craig.
sex.
I'm right there with you.
Where
I
it
am.
was like, this is going to be
It's
really
worth
hard.
That's
it.
what saved us.
It's not to say it saved us, because
I think that's exactly what I was
Well, I'll say,
saying.
I wouldn't say it would save us,
Yeah.
but what I would say is it was a key element for
Yeah.
me. And I'm not going to back off of it because the energy was so powerful. And it was a thing that was like, okay, there's no way. I'm like, I don't care how crazy her ex-husband
Right.
gets. I don't care how crazy my ex-wife gets. I don't care what I have to deal with. It's worth it to me. Like, this connection
Yeah.
is so powerful because it wasn't just like a carnal thing. It was
Yeah.
it was something unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Made me like start questioning whether or not there was a God. I mean, everything, right?
Yeah, it was
Well,
pretty
So,
powerful.
but
Yeah,
what
I agree.
if?
for sure.
And the question became in the 13th week, what if that's taken away?
Can you still create that connection? And it was actually really a really cool class and concept that they talked about. And they talked about like the unhealthiness that is that society has put on sex and what sex means, you know? And it was good. It was good for us
That was
because
so powerful.
what they actually ended up talking about, this may be TMI, but it's okay. A lot of what we've talked about so far is, but what they actually, like what Matt talks about, the husband, is like trying to create this connection and actually like as the man, not making the intention orgasming every time, like not orgasming.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting.
Right? That
It was really cool.
So much of recently for us, because this is the beginning of this year, like literally, January 1st, 2022, just became all about like big wave surfing for us. It's just been a hellacious amount of work and processing for us.
That energy's in the universe right now.
Yeah, it's been really, really hard. And what the fuck was I going to say? What were
I think you're talking about if that was
yes,
taken away.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have sat in that space pretty in a big way recently. And what was really fascinating to me was how much of like my value and worth in the relationship was tied to sex, and how much it was like, if I can't satisfy Stephanie sexually, then it goes back to that same thing of like a protector. It's like, it's so ingrained, and that's where my value and worth lies, is the ability with which to provide this thing. And it used to be just sex, like it used to just be the act of sex. And I realized that it has, over the course of my like relationship with Steph and my adult life, and like actually being able to pull your head out of your ass for a minute, but the realization is that because sex is so much more than just the act of, and over the course of our relationship and the ways that our love making has evolved and grown, I apply the same level of like value and worth to, it's not just the act of sex now, it's pleasing you sexually and having a beautiful sexual relationship that is intimate and connected. And if I don't show up in that way, it's the same thing of just not literally being able to function as a man and have sex with you. And it's like, fucking dude, how many times do I have to repeat the pattern of like, your worth and value is not these things, right? It doesn't matter what it is. It's like, I just have worth alone by myself, whether or not I can have sex, whether or not I can provide some immensely amazing spiritual, connected, sexual, and, you know, intimate relationship. All of it doesn't equate to just value for who I am.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with that one myself. Like that's not, I haven't come to the other side of that one yet. That's still,
how funny is it that we both feel that
you,
same way, right? Because I know you place so much in regards to whether or not you can provide me everything that I need and or want.
Well, and it's not just like, it's not like a duty. It's not like this. It's what happens in that. So it's also, I don't know how to word this. I guess our sex is so liberating because so much happens. It's like this massive exhale and connection, and it's just so powerful beyond the pleasure on that. And so much of it is tied into that. If it was just about an orgasm, it wouldn't be so hard for me to get over, but it's everything that is created with it. So because that is so, I'm still working on that one. Like, I don't know I put so much of my value in that. And I think if that is not something that I can co-create with you anymore, then I'm just too fucked up. And I'm not worth it. Now I'm like you said, this is going to be hard, but the sex. I'm like, if we take that away, you're like, this bitch be crazy. We're done, you know? So that is, we've been sitting in this, and I knew I was afraid of that. But it wasn't until this conversation that I was like, oh, shit, I got to really dive into that one. And I am afraid.
I know it feels like we're jeopardizing our relationship, where it feels like if I can't show up in the same level of sexual energy or whatever, right? If I can't show up as her sexual partner in the way that we've grown to at this level now, then failure, lose everything, relationship over. You know, move to Alaska by myself.
Day 13, huh?
Day 13.
Maybe like, can we buy the 13th day? Can we start with that and then move?
Well, I will say this:
one.
they're masters. They are truly masters, and the way they built on top of, like, the first 5 days were intense personal work. Like, it was all about you. The next 4 days were
how to consciously fight.
Yeah, basically communication and strategies, coupling strategies, and then the final 4 days were
creating your core values, your agreements, like what personal agreements and couple agreements, like what you personal
statement.
Guarantee,
your couple's mission statement, like just beautiful stuff.
Cool.
Like, and what it felt like to me is like ascension. Like, this is a path towards ascension, and as a couple. And I've already told her, like, it's not even been 30 days, and I want to do it again. Like, I want to do this course again. Luckily, they made it available to us, so we can. Well, we want to make that commitment, but it's like, oh man,
What is some of the what's one of the key things that, you know, it sounds like an amazing experience, and obviously there's so much to it, but what are some of the things that you guys have taken away that are like instant implementation? So many times Steph and I will have awareness of something, like this one's going to be a while. We're still going to be processing and thinking and dealing with this one. And then there's other ones where it's like fucking changed immediately.
Yeah.
We got new awareness. We're implementing this code right now, and we're doing it.
It's the how we deal with hard shit. So the strategy is first, you ask each other, like, can we have this hard conversation? Can you be available for this hard conversation? And it gives the person the opportunity to know what they're getting themselves into, right? So they can say, oh, I need a minute, or yeah, okay, now's a good time.
And not just ready emotionally. Like, are you ready physically? Are you fed? Are you tired? Do you need to go to the restroom? Do you stink? Like, because don't talk to me when I get back from the gym. Like, I'm stinky. I'm tired. This is not a time to have any kind of conversation. But like all those areas, are you ready to go?
Yeah. And then using, and this is like one that we kind of already knew, but it was just a good reminder. I statements like, I feel when this happens, I feel this, you know. And then also referring back to, like, once you learn what your triggers are, what your shadows are, what those voices are that, you know, so for me to say, like, when I communicated to him, like, when you didn't pay your restitution, it triggered all of my, you know, shadows of not feeling secure. Like, I have to go out and make sure that I take care of this myself because I can't depend on you to do this. And this is what it's bringing up for me. And then staying solution oriented and not problem oriented, like, focus on the solutions and continue to remind each other we love each other. And this problem is not you and it's not me. It's this problem that we need to find a solution for together. It's not you versus me. We're on the same team. We're just trying to solve this thing over here. So how can we do that? It was.
So it's like rules of engagement, and literally we have them written down now. So when we're going to do hard shit, we'll pull it out. So let's remember our rules of engagement. And then there are commitments we've made to each other. Like, number one, we're never going to threaten to leave each other while we're in this.
When we're triggered.
When we're triggered. That is off the table. And that is, that's pertinent because, like, literally for the first, I don't know how long, every time I got triggered or I sensed she was triggered and I started feeling scared, I was like, oh fuck, we're done, aren't we? Like, this is it. This is the thing.
I knew
there was a thing. I knew there would be a thing. I always thought our love was going to be enough, but it's not. And fuck, this is it. I did it.
It would annoy me so bad because he'd be like, so is this it? Are we done? And I'd be like.
And I'm not talking I'm not talking about like, I'm talking about like how, if I got too mad at Trenton or or whatever, like, but I just thought, okay, I am such a piece of shit. Like, there's got to be something. Like, eventually you're going to figure out what a big piece of shit I am, and you're just not going to want to be with me, right? And this is it. This is the moment where you discover what a lousy piece of shit I am. and so that's off the table. Like,
yeah,
it's completely off the table. And so I don't have to dive into that bullshit story that I bought from the time I was a little child. I don't have to go there.
Another commitment is that our relationship always comes first, that we put our relationship first. What are some of the others?
Respect.
Yeah.
That we speak respectfully to each other. So, you know, there's no name calling. There's no, we're not allowed to raise our voices to each other. Like, we're just not going to do that because that's not what you do when you're being respectful. And we'll do that with our kids too. Because, like, since we're talking about blended families, that we'll speak to all of our kids with respect at all times.
And we've had to pull it out and say,
what are our commitments? Oh, we broke that commitment. I broke that. Oh, fuck. Okay, let's fix this right now. That was me. I can see why I was triggered to commit or to break that commitment. And then rather than diving into shame or blame or guilt or whatever,
you just refer back to the commitment. These are the commitments that we made. Here's the ones that we're not keeping right now.
And that's just so you know, that's like a document that we're going to make look pretty, and we're going to put it in our house so everybody in our family can accept the same commitments. And it was part of the process of, and they had, you know, some helps to help you write all the commitments. But those commitments are based off of the values because we got together because, like, we found out, wow, we value so many of the same things. Like, we value this personal growth, commitment to personal growth. We value personal freedom. We value family. We value integrity. We value authenticity. We want to dive into these things. Let's keep doing these things. Let's dive deeper. And so, like, we did it, like, unintentionally, but we didn't know, oh yeah, we share all the same values. Let's do life together. But that's what we did, right? And so now, looking back, and it's something that Matt talked about, like, you can always look backwards and connect the dots to what got you here, right? The challenge is you can't do it going forward. And so, but looking back, so you can see those patterns, and we can say, wow, without many tools, we figured this shit out. What does that say about us? We're pretty fucking amazing.
Right?
Yeah. And without many tools, I figured out how to overcome all this trauma from a childhood. No, I didn't have a terrible childhood. I mean, I actually had a pretty great childhood. But there was a lot of trauma there. She had a fucked up childhood. Her dad was killed when she was 7 years old in the 7-Eleven parking lot. She was raised by a drunk on food stamps and Social Security income. My dad was working for the government, and that was like in middle class America. She was on the streets of Tooele, like fending for her family since the time she was 7 years old, paying the bills, literally paying the bills for her mom since the time she was like 10 or 11. So like, and from those worlds, with that training and with all these kids, we came together and figured this shit out. And every couple has that story.
I don't think they do.
They can.
Well, I don't think we're supposed to have that story with everybody. I think there's other stories that we have with other people. Oh, and wow. Then sometimes you find that one person where you get to have this story. Yeah. It's because, it's not to say that you can't make your own story, right? You can't get to this point and really dig in, but I think that's what we've been talking about is really digging in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? All of us have decided at some point that we're going to do this life together and it's going to be fucking hard.
Yeah.
But
we're committed to it.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's true.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah. I do believe like our human condition affords us all that opportunity. Because to be human is to hurt.
What sounds like you guys have done a lot of inner child work and looking at traumas from your childhood and how they play out today. What is the most recent one that you've kind of, because so oftentimes it's like the recognition of I have this action and behavior that I want to shift and change, and I've got to understand it, right? I have to kind of create a relationship with it. And at some point along that process, during that relationship, when you're learning about this thing about yourself, I think at some point you see the impetus for it. You see where it began, right? You see the birth of this thing. And sometimes you catch a glimpse of it, and sometimes it's like crystal fucking clear, and you sit in it over and over and over again and really absorb how this thing was formed and made inside of you. And then you can actually shift it, right? Mm-hmm. So is there anything recently that stands out as far as like the correlation between this happened to me as a child and now I can see this is what I'm doing as an adult and how to shift it because I no longer want to repeat that?
Yeah. For me, it was this fixer mentality that I realized I had, that like I sacrificed myself as a kid because my mom didn't have the mental capacity to be a mom to me. So I told myself I didn't need a mom. I was okay, being her mom and doing what needed to be done. And then that continued when I married my first husband. I told myself, he needed me more than I didn't need anything. I was doing this really toxic, like self-sacrificing thing. Like, I don't need anything. I'm good. I just need to fix everybody else. I need to be there for everybody else. And I even, which was kind of a hard one for me because I recognize how amazing Brad is. And obviously I saw that. But the pattern repeated when I saw him hurting. And I was like, oh, another person to fix. I can go and fix him. He needs me to fix him. I don't need anything, but I'll fix you, So that's been my most recent one.
So what are you doing to shift that? What does the actions look like now?
I'm demanding what I need from him and everybody else. Like, this is what I need, and I'm not going to sacrifice that anymore. I'm worth that. And it's okay for me to ask for that. It's okay for me to say I need something. It doesn't make me a lesser of a person to have needs of my own.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And she, Tiff has this amazing energy, like, and it can only be, she's got strong feminine energy, but she also has this powerful masculine energy about her because she was, like, from the time she was a little girl, her dad was taken away. There was no real man in the household. It was her. And so when we got together, I didn't even realize it, but I let her start engaging in masculine matters. And and then I would be there for like the protection part, right? Like, if there's a battle to be fought, I'll fight that. But why don't you take care of making sure all the bills get paid? I can't handle that. Like, causing me drama. It's whatever. And so just recently, like when she says I'm demanding, I've given her permission to say, Brad, this is where I need my king. I need you to man up and handle this. Where previously I would have been like, oh my God, I'm such a loser. The fact that she has to demand the masculine in me. Because I can now acknowledge I was raised by a powerful mom with powerful feminine energy and 4 sisters. And so naturally, I took on a lot of feminine qualities. And that's hard for a guy that's almost 6'2", 230 pounds to say, and completely heterosexual, like, because I'm not supposed to be gay at all. That the feminine energy was strong in me, and I would defer to it almost. And
it's the force.
Yeah.
The force is strong inside of me.
And so I would, so now I can, like, I trust her enough that when she says, I need you to man up, I need my man, it's not like, it's not that toxic thing, you know, it's not, you know, she doesn't need me to grab her by the hair. Maybe she does, but that's not what she's looking for. She's looking for me to step up and take that part. And so I don't get offended by it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the time for the wizard in Brad. This is the time for the magician to show up. And
well, yeah, sometimes I just need to feel supported, because for so long I feel like I was the one supporting, not necessarily like only financially or anything like that, but like just making sure shit gets done, you know? And it's funny because there's always this dichotomy of yes and yes, you know, because while he did, there are a lot of areas where like that the feminine energy showed up more than the masculine, but it's almost like in other areas he overcompensated, you know? So
yeah,
but it's
been fun.
Figuring all that out, because we're always saying everything is yes and yes, because it's never black and white, you know. That's the funny thing. It's never like, oh, it's this, because in another area you can see the opposite.
Like, I love to cook, which a lot of people would say, oh, well, that's feminine energy.
Isn't this funny, babe?
Yeah.
She's just over there cracking up like I am. I know she is. I have a big concept in my head that I'm going to try to get out. So much throughout this episode, I've been talking about, you know, it seems like we got 3 problems that we're dealing with and that we're trying to solve and trying to figure out. And I think the masculine feminine balance inside each of us is one of those problems. And I don't think it has anything to do with masculine and feminine. I think it's just a binary. Mm-hmm. It's 2, and we have to learn how to blend 2 things. And it just looks masculine and feminine because of this world and this realm and this dimension and everything like that. But it's really just the binary problem that we're trying to balance. And it manifests as this masculine feminine thing because I can relate so much with what you're talking about, and allowing my feminine energy to be visible, and not just allowing it to be visible, but also feel it inside of me and feel that it's okay. Yeah. To feel that way. It's okay to feel flamboyant. It's okay to dance. It's okay to do a lot of these things that I really like doing and I feel good doing them, but yet I have had to, for whatever fucking reason, not let those things be seen and not even really acknowledge those things inside of me. But I would constantly talk about, like, one of the things that I've prided myself on my whole life is my ability to be a parent. Like, not just from the like, give me a brand new newborn baby kind of parent where I can care for and love that child in such a beautiful way. And I always thought of that as such a feminine quality. So I always prided myself on that. Cooking. I'm an incredible cook.
Thank God for that. I did not embody that.
And all of these things are just human qualities.
Right.
And I think about how much I have struggled over the course of my life in one way, shape, or form in regards to balancing this masculine and feminine inside of me, right? And what I'm recognizing now, because of the mirror and all that nonsense bullshit that's hard to swallow sometimes, your journey and your path in the balancing of that inside of you.
Are you recognizing that in me?
Yeah.
All right.
Just the level with which you have struggled with the acceptance of masculine things in your energy and in your space and in who you are and the ways that you move. And you're very masculine at times, but you also have obviously the feminine. Go ahead.
I'm curious, like I want more of your take on that. What I have felt is like I was like the tomboy and I had to be tough, and the way that I was raised was I'm supposed to look feminine but be masculine, very masculine, keeping those feelings. Don't be overly emotional. You're not just like, there's so much that I had to like really hold true that I'm just getting to, like these last few years I've been on a journey of accepting my femininity and allowing myself to be soft and it's not just allowing, I like my feminine energy. And so just allowing that to come in. And it's also scary because I was also trained that to be feminine equals to be weak and to be a victim. And so just like playing with that is so...
So do you see how you have spent the last few years allowing your feminine energy to exist and to be seen and to embrace it and let it be okay, right? Let it be safe. And how in the beautiful mirroring track that we do, doing with my masculine, right? Allowing my masculine to be safe and allowing masculinity to be okay. Like so much of the men's work for the past 5 fucking years has just been, it's okay to be a man, right? My existence as a man is acceptable. And now I've got to balance this other side of like, oh, I got a bunch of feminine in me as well.
You gotta.
And allow that to exist in the same way. And so you have the same level of masculine inside of you that you need to balance.
Trying to bring out that healthy part of
baby,
it now.
do your fucking work.
No kissy.
That's so great.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
They
Can you guys
pointed out-
relate?
Yeah. Well, for sure. When we first, so they had
It's so
a
funny.
whole day on masculine and feminine energy. And when we started that class, we're like, we're pretty balanced. We're pretty good. Like, this one will be an easy one for us, you know?
I almost felt like checking out. I was like, whatever.
And then they started
kept
going through it. And their concept was really cool because they talked about like that there is actually this more masculine energy that just is, and it's like the solar energy of the sun, and it's the energy that starts everything. It starts life, you know, it fertilizes the egg. So the masculine energy
It literally
starts.
penetrates.
It penetrates. It's the
Has to.
first. And it was really eye-opening for me because they talked about the concept of, and it was, so they first talked about the feminine energy being like the energy, the lunar energy that reflects the masculine energy, but in such a beautiful way. Like one concept that they talked about that literally blew me away is like how happy and content and like the state of the feminine is in your relationship is a direct reflection of the relationship because it's that lunar energy. And it was funny because they were really careful to try to not trigger people. And they're like, it's fine if you're a female and you want to own that masculine energy, or if you're in a same-sex relationship, like that's totally okay. But you have to be aware of who's carrying which energy. And if you want to carry the opposite energies, that's fine. You just have to be aware of it. And so it's a conscious choice of, do I want to carry more of the feminine energy in our relationship, or do I want to carry more of the masculine? And so we like talked about it, and I was like, no, I actually want to be feminine. I want to be able to be creative. I want to be able to be more in that introspective, you know, meandering mind more often, and not have to be like, you know,
Doing
all the time. And So yeah, that's something we've been working on.
What does it feel like, Brad, when, because I'm listening to you guys, and earlier, Tiffany, when you used that word demand, like I'm demanding this for myself, it's beautiful and it's amazing. And I'm not negating that at all. But I was thinking about it from the perspective of like, there's times where Stephanie will speak with the same energy of she is, you know, this is now what I'm claiming as my space.
Yeah.
And I'm always really proud of her and excited and like, yes, yes, yes. And there's a part of me that's scared inside.
Fuck yeah.
And there's a part of me that feels like it triggers a little boy part of me that feels like I'm in trouble and something is wrong. Like if this woman is standing up and speaking loudly in some way, shape, or form, even though you're not angry or anything like that, right? But it's like suddenly something is off, and it scares me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it is.
Oh, well, I think it's fear. I mean,
Yeah, but what would we be afraid of? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like all I've ever wanted is the champion of Stephanie so that she can see her value and her worth. And then she starts to see her value and her worth and speak it. And there's a part of me that gets scared. I'm like, I know that there's probably a part of it that recognizes that now I have to up level, right? And it's like she's doing her work to the point where I thought I was, but then reality, I recognize immediately I'm not doing that level of work. So I know that there's a component there, but there's also this other little tiny part that's like, oh, it's scary. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. First of all, that part, in our entire relationship, I've felt like I'm always working to catch up to Tiff. She's taken me on a journey, and I'm kicking and screaming. And
how is that the story that we're telling ourselves? Because it's so fucking asinine. It's like
idiocy.
I have taken upon, like, it's a sense of pride that I will actually use to describe our relationship, that Stephanie is so far greater than I am.
Yeah.
She's so much more evolved. She's so much more connected. Like, you want to see some energy work, take a look at Steph. See what like all of these things are about how she can fly, and I'm just trying to catch up.
I do that all the time.
That's so fucking stupid.
It's not true either, right?
Do you know what I mean? It's 100% not true.
Yeah.
Because flip it, right? If they're going to tell themselves the same story, they'd be like, you're so fucking silly. That's obviously not the case.
Right.
Right? You have just as much value and worth that I have. Brad, we got some fucking work to do.
Obviously. Yeah.
Do your work, babe.
So, yeah. Who knows? That's a great question that I'm going to have to spend some time sitting with, though. And that's one of those things, like, that I just love, that Tiff is always pushing me and saying, go sit with this. When are you going to sit with this?
Yeah, you got a hard time slowing down?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I need to go sit with this. Okay, fuck.
We had this conversation just the other day, and can I ask you this question?
Ask me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I totally love and respect BJJ.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And there's a part of me that wants to go and do BJJ. But I've realized that, like, I've already got so much of this masculine energy, and I'm working on embracing more of the feminine, and it doesn't feel like it's the right time to do that. And like, when you're doing this type of work, I'm trying to articulate this in a way that it's not going to sound weird, but I'm just going to go for it. Okay. So how do you justify, like, participating in an activity that's so violent and pull peace from that and do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
Well, first of all, Craig's been training for over a decade, right?
Which is why I wanted to talk to him about that, because first of all, I have to say, you guys are both a beautiful, you're a beautiful couple. I'm just looking at you in awe. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm just enjoying this moment right now, and like being in your guys' presence and being with another couple that I feel like is looking at really hard shit and like doing this work, right? And so I've been kind of just wrestling with because all my boys are doing BJJ now, and I love it, but at the same time, I'm just like, in this world where I feel like we're transitioning from violence always being the answer to compassion and love and peace. Like, how does this work, and why does it feel okay when logically maybe it shouldn't? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. One of my favorite things to do is ramble about jiu-jitsu and draw parallels from it. And it has taught me so many countless things over the course of my life. And it's like everything else, right? It's a lot of what we've been talking about today. It is what it is for when jiu-jitsu shows up in your life, and it provides you what you need when you need it. And if you sit with it long enough, it's going to provide you more, and it's going to provide you more, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to shift, and it's going to change. It is a absolutely beautiful dance. It is when it's like a martial art, it is artistic as fuck. And the ability to get lost in the beauty of jiu-jitsu is why it's so addictive. Because it has it's a massive, you know what it really is, Tiff, probably in some way, shape, or form, is it is actually the beautiful harmony of the masculine and feminine. Because I have to be able to hold you and not kill you. Like, I have to be able to have so much love and compassion for you that I'm going to take you to the brink of death. And then as soon as you tap, we're done. And then I'm going to hug you, and we're going to get up, and we're going to do it over and over and over again. Think about how good the gym feels. The gym feels like love.
Yeah.
Right? The community there, the work that, everybody's put into that place, it makes it feel so special. That's unique to martial arts. Like, when it's a really good, safe place where they're coming from a pure part of it, that's what it feels like. I've been around jiu-jitsu a long time, and there's places that don't feel like that. And that, in my mind, is an unbalanced approach to jiu-jitsu. You get a lot of people that come in that really want to aggressively approach it from the masculine standpoint. And the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is it will let you do that all day long. And then it'll fucking choke you. And it will remind you that you are not strong.
Yeah.
It will remind you.
It doesn't matter who you are.
It humbles you immediately. And there's nothing else like it that has the capacity to do it in such a safe way.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
Because I've been like mental gymnastics over this. Like it feels right, but logically it doesn't. I don't get it.
And that's a paradox, right? That's a double bind. That's one of the things that Steph and I work with and talk a lot about, and we get into, is it's like this rock and a hard spot where this thing doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. The longer you can sit in those uncomfortable places, the more you're going to get from it. Like, if you just make a hard and fast decision, fuck jiu-jitsu, right? That's crazy, whatever. It's for you guys. I'm not going to be involved with it. I'm just going to ignore it. Then you're missing out on seeing the real beauty behind it.
Well, I've been not scared of it physically. I've been like, okay, my childhood, there was a lot of violence and fighting, and like, it was a lot of that. And I'm like, okay, I'm attracted to it because of that. And if I go and do that, it's going to take me back there, and that's the wrong direction for me. But I've also recognized, like, this is a story,
It will take you back there if you let it.
Right.
Right. Jiu-jitsu will take you wherever you want to go. It was very much, when I found jiu-jitsu, I was like in my early 20s. My brother and I had been fucking around fighting my entire life with my brothers. And my oldest brother, him and I were getting to the point where we were fighting more like adults. So we were punching each other in the face and doing some more things like that. And also being attracted to that type of stuff. So he found a place. And when I found jiu-jitsu, it very much gave me some healing in that space of, there was a point where we started jiu-jitsu together, me and my older brother. And then there was a really clear point where I was far better than he was. I was way more committed to it. And I really healed a part of like this little kid brother that could not beat up his older brother. And it was like, there was just no chance in hell now. There's just no way. Jiu-jitsu gave me such a leg up to the point where it was laughable. It's like, yes, please come roll with me, right? Because I will let you think that you're winning and that you're hurting me, and then I'm just going to fuck you up hard, right? So it feeds that part of me and heals that part of me. And then if I stay with it, it shows me more, and it shows me more, and it shows me more. And it just continually, going back to jiu-jitsu, I went back last year at the beginning of whatever last year was, 2021. And had been away from it for a really long time. And going back to it was really, really hard. It was so difficult for me to go to the gym week after week and just simply show up. I had such anxiety over so many different things. I mean, the list is just super long. And so it was incredibly challenging for me to do that. But jiu-jitsu was the guy that was walking with me along the way. It was the thing that was getting me in the door and making me feel safe. I don't feel safe going there. I don't feel safe around those people. I feel like everybody's, I mean, you just name it. My self-worth was in the gutter. Mm-hmm. And this was a way to, at least I have jiu-jitsu. Like at the end of the day, you know, I'll roll with anybody. I don't care. I can roll with anybody, and I can hold myself with almost anybody rolling. There's always going to be somebody better than me. You know, there's always going to be somebody that I have to tap to, and that's okay.
There aren't many, though. Just for the record.
So it just literally will show you, it's a yogic practice. It's just like yoga, and the way that yoga takes you down all the different paths that you need to go to.
Trenton has said that
Yeah.
to me before. And
That's
he's
exactly what it is.
Literally, just like yoga, syncing with your breath and being aware is how you win in jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing.
It's a meditation. Your mind has to get quiet.
Yeah.
And you know the difference between new people, their mind is still really crazy, which is why they go so fast and so hard. Mm-hmm. Their mind isn't peaceful yet because they're so scared and they're so nervous and they're so uncomfortable. They don't know what's happening. That's what life is like, right?
Right.
And our mind is so crazy. And when you can finally relax and take a breath and realize that, like, okay, I've got to roll for 5 minutes. I probably have some time to relax here. I don't need to go hard for 5 minutes.
Some space.
Exactly.
I'm so glad you brought up the healing part with your brother, because I watched it, like, because one of the reasons I started training is because of shame. Because I was at a tournament in junior, my little 7-year-old got choked, and he stood up crying. And I started to yell at him, "Don't cry." And Louis was there. Our Louis Baird was there. And he said, "Have you ever been choked?" No. He said, "It's really hard."
Yeah.
When you get choked. I was like, fuck. I have to go get choked. I have to do that, don't I? Damn. I didn't tell it to him, and it still took me a few months to get the guts up because I was scared. And I still am. Like, when I go to most classes, I'm still fighting anxiety, fighting fear. Okay, I'm probably going to get choked today in some fashion because I'm still the new guy. 6 months in, I'm still the new guy. But I got to roll with Trenton, my stepson. He's my boy. He's 21 years old. And he chokes me more than I choke him. And he's, 80 pounds lighter than me or so. And he's phenomenal, and he's learning so many cool tricks and moves, and I see the healing that happens from him choking me.
Right.
Because I'm not the big scary stepdad anymore. Like, he can really trust me because he knows he can take me to the brink of death and then let me come up. And I didn't let him. I mean, I never let him choke me. I don't try not to let anybody choke me. That's not fun.
Yeah.
And so that healing takes place, and I get to experience that healing of letting him have that power.
Right.
The power that the little boy wanted when he was 9 years old. I told him, stop making such a mess. I chased him around the house a couple times, like literally around the outside of the house, trying to catch him because he was doing something.
One time he threw water on Brad, and it pissed Brad off so bad. Yeah, Brad chased him around the house and, like, drenched him with the hose. But, like, he was really pissed.
Not in a kind of way.
Trent was like, what the fuck?
And so that that was a beautiful articulation
It was.
of the dance. And it's what I felt, even in my, naivete of learning, of training.
Well, I brought this up to Brad because it's just been something that I've like needed an explanation for. Like, I'm like, I couldn't articulate it myself, you know.
And I
like,
couldn't articulate the way you just did. I was
Well-
like, because she asked me, it was 2 nights ago in bed. I was like, I don't know, but
I feel like you're judging me for doing it. Like, what? And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to judge you. I'm asking, I'm curious. I need you to tell me. And he's like, I'm just feeling judgment right now. And I'm like, okay, then we can stop talking about it.
Yeah, Steph struggles with it a lot.
Yeah, you guys have just opened up something to me. If I get emotional, we'll see if I can get through it.
We don't cry in baseball.
Right?
Podcasting.
Like back in the day when he would he would teach rolling, and I would go and I would roll with him and with other women, and sometimes men would come, and I was okay, but I was turned off to my body and to the reality of the trauma that my body has experienced, that I have experienced. And I am no longer like turned off to that. I am aware it is active, and I am in healing with my trauma. So I'm feeling like the anxiety coming up, the thought of, I don't feel strong enough to have men hold me down in any way. So I've been like, I can't do that because my words are going to get really hard to come out with, because that was a very, like, the way you just express that, both of you, and just how you're expressing it with your son. And so thank you for painting that picture, because there was that, like, I know that's safe. I know everybody there is safe. I know nobody's going to hurt me. Like you mentioned before, we take our child there. Like, we trust all these people to choke our kids. Like, obviously it's an okay place. It's safe. It feels good. I like it there. But still, the thought of it was just like, don't fucking touch me. Like, I'm going to be over here on the bench. You guys are doing great. But the thought of like, of maybe being able to take some of that power back in a safe way. But also, would I be able to hang on long enough to get strong enough? I don't know if I can. Like, that was that moment where I'm like, I think I'm ready. I feel that I can take some of my power back. I can be in safe situations and trust. And then just the thought of somebody having my back, holding me down, choking me, I'm like, yeah, maybe not. So I don't know. It's still this flux, but what just awoke in me was quite intense.
Yeah.
I hope you're able to go.
Well, I was just thinking maybe you and I should go together at noon. At the noon class. Because I deal with the same thing. I'm like, okay,
right there.
I'm
I'm
kind
like,
of scared. Like, I've been afraid of, what is that going to pull out of me? Like, what is that going to turn me into? You know?
It does all of these things and more. That's the beautiful thing about it. There's every time I think I got it figured out, then it teaches me another lesson.
It's so funny because
so perfect.
I told you, I'm like, I decided, okay, because I need some physical exertion, you know, like I felt that. And I went and took up silks. And I was like, okay, this is feminine, this is creative, and it's still strong, and it's given me all the things that I need, you know. And then the studio shut down. It's shutting down this month. And I'm like, that really sucks.
That does really suck.
Yeah. So then I started thinking, you know, and I've also felt this disconnect because all of my boys are going to this gym multiple times a week, and they're coming home and they're talking about how amazing it is. And I'm just kind of like, sounds cool, but I don't know if I want to do it. I don't think I do.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And that wild ride of the ups and downs, like, it happens every class, because that thing that you're talking about, like that very fear, I can tell you, like, on Monday I was on top of the world. I felt like, okay, bring Craig on. I don't mean that, but I would,
not really.
I would have rolled with him on Monday. I felt so great, like, I'm finally understanding jiu-jitsu. And then Wednesday, Tyler shows up, and Tyler's big, strong cop. Like, he's really, really good too. And I trained with him, you know, and drilled with him, and then we rolled, and I felt like a little child. like literally. I felt like a little child. And at the end of it, I had already tapped twice to him. And I like was figuring out, okay, as much as I think I've learned in the last 6 months, I still know nothing. And he got me in a position that we'd been drilling.
That's my favorite thing to do.
His too. And then he looked right at Keith and said, Keith, the professor, he says, Keith, Brad's going to need your help right now.
Jeez.
And I could not perform the escape. Like, I was, first of all, exhausted. Like, I could feel that my, like, that I had very little blood flow going at that point. And, you know, once you've exerted so much, like, you can barely even grip. And this required me gripping his belt and then gripping the other side. And it was going to, and then I had to get him up just enough so I could scissor under or shrimp underneath his hip. And then it was a very difficult move if I'm fresh, and I wasn't fresh. And it would be a very difficult move on another big white belt, let alone a big purple belt. And I tapped, and I hadn't even really tried. I just knew even if I try this escape, nothing's going to happen. And I felt complete defeat. And then, this is the interesting thing, I don't know if I told you this or not, or if I imagined telling this, that I felt shame. Because I just tapped to pressure.
You did tell me that.
I did, didn't I? Yeah.
Right. When you don't tap to a submission, when you tap because you just give up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God.
I just did that.
Yeah.
And
I hate that.
And I did it in front of Keith, Gustavo, and Louis Baird.
Mm-hmm.
They were all right there watching. And they all know exactly why I tapped.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, oh my God, I just did that.
It gives you a safe place to play out some of those lessons.
Yeah.
Because there's not a really safe place to give up, and then to have everybody else, like, because they're sitting there with you in that experience, and they all know what just happened because they've all done it. Everybody has had to tap from giving up. And so it's like the real good reminder of it's okay to just give up.
It's okay to not be perfect.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you suddenly are, you know, banned from the gym. Nobody makes fun. We might make fun of you a little bit sometimes. But it's like, it just reminds you that it's a safe place to fail, because you will fail over and over and over. I don't even care. Like, I might set an intention. I have to like find unique ways to keep myself entertained rolling with people, because I just feel so bad. Like, if I just roll, like, it's not a competition for me. Mm-hmm. And nobody likes rolling with that person that just kicks your ass over and over and over and over again. So I have to find unique ways to like entertain myself. But what I'm doing is I'm getting creative, and I'm experimenting with my skill set, as well as like allowing the creative process to take place. Because when I get creative about, you know, sometimes I will have a very focused thing that I'm working on. So it's like I'm going to get a submission using my left arm. So then everything has to be driven around my left arm and getting a submission with that arm, which is different than I normally would do things. So it creates things that I didn't see because I was looking at things in a different way, as opposed to looking at things in the same way over and over and over and over again. And repetition is great, and it really hones your skills and it makes you strong. But if you want to grow, you got to look at things in a different way. And so Jiu-Jitsu, if you let it, will teach you everything you need to know about life. But that's just because it's a good practice. It's a good yogic practice. It's a martial art. And there's so many of them that are like that.
I like that. I like that
so beautiful.
Like, we can do a whole podcast on rambling about
like,
jiu-jitsu.
Because right now I'm at the point where I'm like looking at a clock, 5 minutes. Can I make it 5 minutes without being submitted?
Right? Sometimes that's all it is
Yeah.
I'm just going to survive the next 5 minutes. There's some, like fucking Tyler, there was one time rolling with him where suddenly I was airborne, completely in the air, free from the ground. And that doesn't happen to me very often. There's not a lot of people that can lift me up completely free from the ground for a period long enough for me to realize it. And suddenly I realized, oh fuck, I'm in the air. Oh shit, but he was nice enough that, you know, that's the other thing, is he has to play too, right? So he plays around with, like, I could really fuck Craig up and slam him at this point, or I can help him down. I can assist him into this experience so that he doesn't get hurt, because I care about him and I want to keep rolling with him, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to hurt the person, because then you don't have anybody to train with, and we like each other. So it's like just this other beautiful thing. He's having his experience. Why I'm also like, holy fuck, I'm in the air. What's happening? This hasn't happened in a long time. Made me feel very small. Like you said, you feel very childlike sometimes because there's some people that just manhandle you. And you're like, I have nothing I can do right now.
And I think that humbling experience is valuable.
It's
for
so
everybody.
valuable, yeah.
Especially for, like, it's been especially valuable for me. I've needed it so much, so that I can have courage in those other areas where, God, there's this other shadow work that I have to do, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I can go do it. Whether it's dealing with financial stress, dealing with the IRS problem that I have to heal, dealing with paying back owing child support, whatever it is, I can look at that and realize this doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Doesn't mean I'm no longer worthy of God's love. It's just an opportunity.
Yeah. Guys, this has been unreal. I've been so grateful the entire time. I was excited to sit down with you guys, and you didn't disappoint in any way. It's been so awesome.
Amazing.
Likewise.
Yeah.
It's like you were saying earlier, Tiff, it's nice to sit in front of people that are doing work and are willing to do really, really hard stuff. Sometimes we have people that come on the podcast that, I don't even go down that rabbit hole. We've got great people that come on the podcast, but it's just really nice to sit in front of some people that are willing to have these conversations and can definitely speak from, experience of what they're going through, like legitimately right now. Like that's the other thing, right? It's,
It's present.
we're going to push stop and we're going to go our Christ almighty.
Because okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was really weird that happened.
I know, right? I'm realizing now that needs to stop.
Yeah, that's a bad feature.
Needs to change. Anyways, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell us the podcast again.
Tru Life Balance podcast.
And we will schedule for you guys to come on.
We would love to. Yeah, that'd be great. And you guys are welcome back anytime. Like anytime you want to, even if it's just like, hey, we're bored. It would be so fun to go hang out with Crit. Fucking call us and we'll do another podcast.
We will take you up on that because this has been Friday night's our date night. Like this is our date night. We're pretty ritualistic about it. Like the kids know, don't schedule anything for us on Friday night because we're not going to be there. And so this has been a great like intro into our date night. And I feel like so much love and so much connection, and I'm really, really
my
grateful
energy
for this.
was so low and crappy before this, and I was almost like, I don't know if we should go and do this because I'm just not in it. Like I don't feel like I'm in that place, but it was the perfect thing because I'm feeling great right now. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys
so much. Is there anything else that you guys want to throw out?
No. I always like to say, like, anytime, if anything anybody has said here, anything that has motivated anybody, take a step. Like, whatever it is, get a book, call somebody, go spend some time meditating. I don't know what it is, but if, like, that's one of the key beauties of life is when you feel that motivation, that inspiration, do something. Because it's probably going to prompt you to do something else.
Right.
And so, like, sitting in it is great. And then go take some kind of action. And it might just be sitting more. So.
See, there's a jiu-jitsu metaphor. Because there's often times where you feel this push of, like, if I go right now, I might get out of this. I might get the reversal. I might escape. But if I hesitate and if I talk myself out of it and if I'm too afraid to move because I might get submitted, then you're going to stay stuck for a while. Yeah.
I like it.
What was that book you were referencing to about epigenetics?
Oh, it is.
It
didn't start with you.
It didn't start with you.
I cannot remember the author's name right
That's
now.
okay. You said that. I thought that was like the phrase, but that's the book. It
The
didn't
book,
start with
yeah.
you.
It didn't start with you.
I haven't heard of
It's a
that
good one.
You guys are awesome. Thank you
Likewise.
so much.
Thank you guys.